All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Um, could you all just let me know if you all are hearing me, please? All right, great. So basically, we will be continuing from where we left off last week, right? Last week we started talking about linear graphs. We started looking at how we determine the gradient of a line, the equation of a line. So we're going to continue from where we left off last week, right? Now, so there will be some students here who are just visiting, right? So for my students who are in my class, right, I have some work for you all to do. When you log into my website as usual, there are three quizzes that I want you all to complete for me for next week, right? That is finding the gradient of a line, finding the equation of a line, and talking about parallel and perpendicular lines, which we will cover in today's class, right? So let's begin. Now, last week we started talking about the equation of a straight line. We said that the general form of the equation of a straight line is given by y is equal to mx plus c, where the m, right, as this constant here, m is called the gradient, and we have c, which is called my y-intercept, right? So the general form of the equation of a straight line is of the form y equal to mx plus c, right? So on a graph paper, so let's say I were to draw a straight line, the straight line would cut my y-axis at a particular point, right? And that is this point we are talking about here, as this point. And that point is what we call our y-intercept, right? Because it's cutting the y-axis. So this here represents my y-intercept, right? And the coordinates for the y-intercept is always going to be 0, c, where c is the point at which we are cutting the y-axis, right? So graphically, this is how a straight line is going to look. It's always of the form y equal to mx plus c, right? So we spoke about this last week. Now, the next thing, last week I gave you all a formula to find the gradient of a line, right? The gradient of a line is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, right? We're going to go through some more examples concerning this. Now, with respect to the CSEC exam, what you all need to be able to do, there are particular questions that they want you all to be able to answer. So, one particular type of question has to do with finding the equation of a straight line if we are given the graph. So for example, I've given you a graph here, and the question is find the equation of this straight line, right? So the straight line we are talking about is this red line here. Now, before we can find the equation of the line, the first thing we need to do is to find the gradient of the line, right? And we're going to find that using this formula here. Once we do that, we will determine what the y-intercept is if it can be found directly from the graph. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to look at the same graph. I'm going to look at that graph here, and I'm going to do or follow the same two steps that we were talking about here. So the first step I indicated before is that we need to find the gradient of the line. So let's go back here now. So this is my graph, and before I can find the gradient of a line, I need to choose 2 points on the line that I can use in order to find the gradient. So in the exam, if they give you a graph like this, the first thing you need to do is to find 2 points on that graph. So I'm going to choose a point here. Let's say this point here, right? And I'm going to call that point A, right? You can call it whatever you want. You can call it P or Q, doesn't matter. I'm going to call that point A, and I'm going to call this point here B. right? Now you might be wondering, why did I choose those 2 points? I'm choosing 2 points where I can actually read off what the coordinates are, right? That's what I'm trying to do. So for example, the point A, can somebody tell me what is the coordinate of, or what are the coordinates of the point E? So somebody saying minus 1, 1. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. Because when we read off a coordinate, we have to give the x value first, followed by the y value. So therefore, the point A is actually minus 1, 1, right? So in the exam, you're going to choose 1 point. So I've chosen my point as A. And what are the coordinates of the point B? All right, so I'm seeing Tiana saying 2, 7. Let's see if that's correct. I'm also seeing Danica saying 2, 7, Tamika saying 2, 7. All right, so chances are it's 2, 7, right? We're going to read off the x value first, which is this. This is the x value, and this is the y value. So therefore, the coordinates of B are 2 and 7, right? Now, here's the thing. The formula to find gradient is equal to, so we're going to call gradient m, right? And I told you all the formula is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, right? That's the formula. Now, some students, when they see the formula, they get confused. But we are getting the x1, the y1, all of those things from my coordinates that I've just read off. So here's what you can do. So I can label this as x1, and I can label this as y1. I can label this as x2, and I can label this as y2, right? I always tell my students to write those little things above the coordinates, right? So when you are substituting into the formula, you will not make a mistake, right? Now I could have easily said let B be x1, y1 and let A be x2, y2. You will get the same answer, right? Doesn't matter. So let's substitute. So y2 in this case here is the 7. So that is 7 minus whatever y1 is, which in this case here is this value, which is 1, divided by x2. x2 is 2. And x1 is this value here, which is minus 1. So it's 2 minus minus 1. So 7 minus 1 gives me 6 divided by 2 minus minus 1 is actually 3. And therefore my gradient is equal to 2. So I now know what m is. M is equal to 2. And I was able to determine that by choosing 2 points on the line. You can use any 2 points, you will still get the same gradient, right? So now, as the first step, right? So your first step is to find the gradient. Now we know that the general formula is really equal y equal mx plus c. That's the general formula for a straight line. But the thing is, you just worked out m. So therefore, y is equal to 2x plus c. So we're almost there. All you need to do now, you need to figure out, well, what is c? Now here's the thing. If in the exam they give you a graph, right? Remember, c is my y-intercept. Can somebody tell me what are the coordinates of my y-intercept? All right, so I'm seeing some answers coming up. Right, so the coordinates will be 0, 3, right? It's not, the y-intercept is 3, but the coordinates of the y-intercept is 0, 3, right? So let's look at this now. So this point here, this point is my y-intercept, right? And the coordinates of that point is actually 0, 3. Now, if it's cutting at the point 3, it means that the equation of my line is going to be y is equal to 2x plus whatever my y-intercept was, which is 3. So therefore, the equation of my line is really this here, right? So just remember how the question started off. The question, all it did, it gave you a straight line on a graph. And the question was, find the equation of the straight line. So the steps were, find the gradient first of all, but before I can find the gradient, I need to choose 2 points on the line. Any 2 points you want. Any exam, it's your choice. Choose points that are easy to read off, right? Then you calculate the gradient. So you have the gradient, which is m. The next thing is, if you can look at the graph and determine what the y-intercept is, then you can easily determine what the equation of the line is. All right? So let's do a next example. So I have another graph. So the graph, the question is asking us, find the equation of the straight line. Okay? So if I want to find the equation of the straight line, my first step is to find 2 points on that graph that I could use. So let's see. I am going to choose points that I can read off easily. So I'm going to call this point, I'm going to call that A. And let's see, which is the next easy point I can use. I can use this point here. This point here, which is B. Right? So just to make sure you all know how to read off coordinates, I want you all to tell me what are the coordinates of A and B. So I see in Tiana is saying minus 3, 5. Okay, so minus 3, 5 is A, yes. All right, so most of y'all, I gather you know how to read off a coordinate. So what is B? Minus 1, 1. All right, Tamika saying minus 1, 1, right? Somebody say minus 1, 2. All right, Chad, yeah, that's correct, Chad. All right, so let me just write down the coordinates for you all here. So B is actually minus 1, minus 1, right? I'm reading off my x value and my y value. The point A is minus 3, 5, right? So most of y'all seem to get that. Now, before you do anything else, label what your x1, y1 is and what x2, y2 is. So I'm going to call this x1 and I'm going to call this y1, right? I'm going to call this x2 and I'm going to call this y2. Please do not mix these numbers up or you will get the gradient wrong. So let's start. So gradient, you all need to learn this formula, please. It is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I already labeled what x1, y1 is, what x2, y2 is. So I'm just going to substitute. So y2 is minus 1 minus whatever y1 is, which is 5, divided by x2 minus x1, which is minus 1 minus minus 3. All right, so minus 1 minus 5, that's on the top, the numerator, that'll give us minus 6. And then minus 1 minus minus 3 is the same as saying minus 1 plus 3, which is really equal to 2. So therefore, my gradient is equal to minus 3. So that's what my m is, right? My gradient is minus 3. So once we know the gradient, we know the general form of an equation is y equal mx plus c. It's something you all need to know and remember. But you just worked out m. So therefore, the gradient y is equal to minus 3x plus c. So really and truly, what I need to know now, I need to know what is my y-intercept. Can somebody tell me what are the coordinates of my y-intercept? All right, so I'm seeing a lot of responses coming in here. 0 minus 4. Great. So you all know what we're talking about. So my y-intercept is this point here. This is my y-intercept, right? Because remember, my vertical axis is my y-axis. So this point here is my y-intercept, right? So if that's my y-intercept, the coordinates of my y-intercept will be 0 minus 4, right? So therefore, the equation of the line is actually y is equal to minus 3x minus 4, right? So that red line you see in there, the straight line, the equation of that line is y equal minus 3x minus 4, right? So this is just one way that CSEC can ask a particular question. They can give us a graph, right, and ask us to find the equation of the graph, or the line, sorry, and we need to find the gradient, and we can find the y-intercept from the graph. But what if in the exam they gave us just a line segment, right? A line segment looks something like this. So from the graph, I can't see where it's cutting my y-axis, right? But they want us to find the equation of that line segment, all right? So if you get a question like this, these are the steps you're going to do. I want you all to tell me what are the coordinates of A and B. First thing. All right, so saying Daryl saying 1, 2, and B is 4, 7. All right, so I'm seeing 1, 2. Danica is also saying 1, 2, and 4, 7. All right, so y'all not doing bad. You could read off our coordinate. So the point A is 1, 2. That's the coordinate of the point A. The coordinates of the point B are 4 and 7. All right? So just like with the previous question, the first thing I need to do, I need to figure out what the gradient is. I need to know the gradient. So I already have these 2 points here, so I might as well label them. You can label them however you want. I'm going to label this x1, y1, and I'm going to label this x2, y2. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to find the gradient of that line. So m equal y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1, right? And this will give me, now because I've labeled my coordinates, I just have to substitute. So y2 minus y1 is actually 2 minus 7 divided by 1 minus 4. All right? So it's 2 minus 7 and that gives me minus 5 divided by 1 minus 4, and I'm going to get minus 3. Right? So therefore my gradient is actually 5 over 3. All right? So that is my gradient. Now I want you all to get into the habit, when I work out a gradient and it's not a whole number, try to leave it as a fraction, right? Don't come and write don't go write any exam 1.67 or something like that, right? Try to keep it as a fraction, all right? And when I say keep it as a fraction, you can keep it as an improper fraction. That's fine, right? So that is my gradient. The next thing, let's draw a line here. So I know the gradient of the line. So the gradient is 5 over 3. But like I told you all, general form is always y equal mx plus c. So therefore, my equation is going to look like this. Y is equal to 5 over 3 x plus c, right? So that is what my equation is going to look like. But the thing is, I don't know what the y-intercept is. And if I look at the graph, I really can't, if I extend the line, I could determine my y-intercept. But what I should do is, I have 2 points that lie on the line. I have point A and point B. So what we're going to do, we're going to choose one of those points in order for me to find my y-intercept, right? So you could choose any one you want. I'm going to choose A, right? So I'm going to say using the point A. Now you could have used B if you wanted, that's fine. I'm choosing the point A, and from that point A, I can see that when x is equal to 1, comma, y is equal to 2. So sometimes when I write this, students are like, so where you get that from? I got that from here. The coordinates of the point A is 1, 2. So when x is 1, y equal to 2. And we know that A lies on the line, right? So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take those two values, this value and this value, and I'm going to substitute it into this here, the partial equation, in order to find what C is. Because if I know what C is, then automatically I know what the equation of the line is. So I'm going to substitute those values. So let me use a different color here. So y is 2. So I'm going to put 2 is equal to 5 over 3 multiplied by x, which is 1, plus c. All right? So even when you get some of these things, some students have problems with this. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say 5 over 3 plus c is equal to 2. Right? So 2 was equal to 5 over 3 multiplied by 1 plus c. So therefore 5 over 3 plus c is the same as it being equal to 2. So therefore c is equal to 2 minus 5 over 3. So therefore c is equal to 2 minus 5 over 3 will give us 1/3. Right? So 2 minus 5. Right, so c is equal to 1/3. So if c is equal to 1/3, it means that the equation of my line is actually y equal to 5 over 3 x plus 1/3. Right? So this is my equation of my line. So if you put this in the exam, they will give you this correct. Alright? So some of the students, what they do, they get rid of the fractions. One way of getting rid of the fractions here is to multiply my entire equation by 3. Right? If I multiply every single thing by 3, I'm going to end up with 3y is equal to 5x plus 1. Right? And what I want you to know is that this is also correct. Right? So keep that in mind. Any one of those answers will be the equation of the straight line. Right? All right, let me just make sure we did everything properly there. All right, so this is how we find the equation if we are given 2 points on a line. So are you all okay there? Are you all following? All right, Tiana, Emily, Chad, great. So let's do another question where they're going to ask us to find the equation of a line segment, right? We don't know what the y-intercept is, but we need to work out the equation of the line segment. All right, so we're going to have going to go through the same process again. Before I can even work out the equation, I need to know what my gradient is. So to work out my gradient, I need to know the coordinates of A and B, right? So I think most of you all kind of have an idea how to read off coordinates on a graph. So the point A here is 1, 6. That's the point A. And the point B is 5, 1, right? So that is A and that's B. The next thing we need to do, make sure and label my x1, y1, and this will be x2, y2, right? So let's find the gradient. Actually, you know what? Since you all say you're following, I want you all to work out the gradient for me. So m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I want you all, I'll give you 2 minutes to work out the gradient. So what is the gradient? Alright, see Darrell put an answer ready. And Darrell, is this the fake Darrell or the real Darrell for my class? So Emily got minus 5 over 4 as well. Let's wait for, so Tamika got minus 5 over 4. Darrell said the real one, cool. Alright. And Danica got minus 5 over 4, Josiah as well. Great. Alright, so you're not doing bad, man. Tiana also got minus 5 over 4. Good. So while I work out the gradient, I want you all, right? Chad also got minus 5 over 4. That's great. So while I'm gonna work out the gradient, and those of you who already worked out the gradient, I want you to work out the equation of the line for me in the meantime, right? So let me work out the gradient. So all I'm doing is substituting my values. So y2 will be 1 minus 6 divided by 5 minus 1. 1 minus 6 is minus 5, and 5 minus 1 is 4. So my gradient is minus 5 over 4. That is great. Right? So I want you all to work out the um, the equation of the line for me. Right? I'll give you 2 minutes for that. All right. So just wait until you all give me an equation for this line. All right. Just to make sure that you all are following. Oh, Daryl, yeah, I want you all to work out the equation. So I want you all to tell me what the equation of the line is. All right, I'm just waiting to get this one answer before I actually work it. All right, so seeing some answers coming in. Minus 5 over 4x plus 29 over 4. All right. All right, so let me work it out there, right? So we know what the gradient is, right? So we already know that the general form of a straight line has this equation, y equal mx plus c, right? But you already worked out what m is. So therefore, it's y equal minus 5 over 4 x plus c, right? So we know this so far. Y equal minus 5 over 4 x plus c. So our objective now is to find what c is, because from the graph, we cannot tell what the y-intercept is. All right? So you have a choice. You can either choose the point A or you can choose the point B. It's totally up to you. You'll get the same answer, right? So I'm going to just use the point A, right? So using the point A, right? If we use the point A, we know that when x equal 1, y equals 6, right? Where did I get that from? That is directly from the coordinates. Look, x is 1 here and y is 6. That's where I'm getting that information from. So I'm going to take those two values for x and y, and I'm going to substitute it into this partial equation that we have here, right? So what we're going to say y, which is, it's 6, equal minus 5 over 4 multiplied by x, which is 1, plus c, right? So therefore, I can write minus 5 over 4, right, plus c, because minus 5 over 4 multiplied by 1 is minus 5 over 4, which is equal to 6. And therefore, c is equal to 6 plus 5 over 4. So therefore, c is equal to 7 1/4, right? But like I said, we need to write your answer as this, 29 over 4, right? So try not to use 7 1/4, right? Try not to use this. Don't use this. So what we can say, the equation of the line now becomes y equal minus 5 over 4 x plus 29 over 4, right? So this here is my answer, right? Now, if you put 7 1/4, they won't give you it wrong, right? But we try to work as an improper fraction. So leave it as 29 over 4. Some students, what they will do, they could get rid of the fractions if they want, in which case they will multiply by 4, and the equation they will get will be 4y is equal to minus 5x plus 29, right? And this is also correct, right? So those of you who got either one of these, you are correct, right? All right. So this method we spoke about here, this is the second way. Right, so this is the second way that they can ask the question, where they just give us 2 points on the line and they want us to find what the equation of the line is. Now, let's see what else can they ask us. All right, so this is another type of question they can ask us. In which case they haven't given us a graph, and they came and they asked us, find the equation of the line that has a gradient of 4. So the gradient of the line is 4. So therefore, m is 4. And it passes through the point P, which is 2, 5. So I have the gradient, and I also have what or where does the graph pass through, right? So first thing we have to do with this question, we know what the general form of the equation is. The general form of the equation is y equal mx plus c, right? That's a given. It's always that form, right? But in the question, they've also told us what the gradient is. We don't have to work it out. They've given us what the gradient is. So we can write y is equal to 4x plus c, right? So I know what the gradient is. Now, my next thing is I need to know what c is. C is a constant, and the only way we're going to work out that constant is by using a point that is on the line. So from that point, which is 2, 5, we can say that when x equal to y is equal to 5. So I'm going to take those two values and substitute it into the equation. If I substitute that into the equation, I'm going to get 5 is equal to 4 multiplied by 2 plus c, right? So just make sure you all understand what I'm doing. I'm taking these values and I'm substituting it into this equation. So anywhere we see x, we're going to use 2. Anywhere you see y, you're going to use 5. So this equation now becomes 5 is equal to 8 plus c, right? So I can say that 8 plus c is equal to 5, and therefore c is equal to 5 minus 8. So therefore c is equal to minus 3. So you figured out what the constant is. The constant is minus 3. So therefore the equation of the line that we want, or the answer to the question, is y is equal to 4x minus 3, right? So this is my equation. This is the answer they want, right? And these are the steps that we have to use. Now please, right, I tell you all this in class all the time, statements are extremely important, right? If you write proper statements, you could make a mistake and still get most of the marks for the question, right? It's easy for the examiner to follow what you are doing, right? Also, try to write your answers as neatly as possible, right? And those of you in my class know that when I'm working problems, I always tell you all, please try to keep all your equal sign under each other, right? This helps in laying out your answer. That's something that you all need to know, right? So let's look at another question. So we have, find the equation of a line having a gradient of a half. So therefore m is equal to a half, and that passes through the point P, which is minus 1, 4, right? Now I will give you a few minutes for you all to work that equation out for me, right? All right, so see, Darrell have an answer, a half x plus 4. Del has minus a half x. Now remember the gradient. Wait, so what's going on? Let me see something. So the gradient is a half, it's not minus a half. So double check your answer, Del. All right, seeing some more answers coming up. Give the rest 2 minutes. All right, so let's see, Daryl changed his answer. Let me check it out. So we know the gradient. The gradient is a half. We know what the point P is. So again, we start off with the general form, which is y equal mx plus c, right? And we know that m is a half, so therefore we know that y is equal to a half x plus c. So our objective now is to figure out what the c is. What is the value of the c? So we're going to use the point P in order to do this, right? So what we're going to do, we're going to say when x equal to minus 1, right, y is equal to 4, right? And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to take those two values for x and y, and I'm going to substitute it into this equation, right? Because if I substitute it there, then I'll be able to find the equation. So therefore, 4 is equal to a half multiplied by x, which is minus 1, plus c, right? So therefore, I can write this over as a half multiplied by minus 1 plus c is equal to 4. So minus a half plus c is equal to 4. Therefore, c is equal to 4 plus a half, right? So therefore, c is equal to 9 over 2. Did you all get that? Or did I see 7? Did I make a mistake? Let's see. Gradient is a half, x equal minus 1, y equal 4. Yeah, so c is 9 over 2. So therefore, the equation of the line, all right, is y equal to a half x plus 9 over 2. Anybody got that? Or everybody got 7 over 2? All right, so I see Josiah got 9 over 2, right? I was now messaging to see if anybody got that, right? So the answer is actually 9 over 2, right? You need to be careful with your signs, right? So let's follow the steps I've done, and we'll get C as being 9 over 2, all right? Don't worry, we're gonna do some past paper questions just now, right? So before I can move on with more questions, right? I need you all to understand what we call parallel lines and what are called perpendicular lines. All right? So before I move on, I'm missing something here. Yeah, so Tiana is saying, all right, so if it's minus a half, right? And we move it across to the right hand side, it's going to become plus a half. So that's why the answer will be 4 plus a half, right? Which is 9 over 2, not 7 over 2. Know what you all did. You all said 4 minus a half, right? So this person, Tara, is saying, how did I get 9 over 2? Well, all I did was substitute x equal 1, minus 1, sorry, and y equal to 4 into this equation on top here, right? This equation here. So therefore, 4 is equal to half multiplied by minus 1 plus c, right? All I've done here in this particular part here, all I've done is substituted my x and y values. Now, if you have 4 equal to everything on the right-hand side, it means that I can write it over as a half multiplied by minus 1 plus c equal to 4. This equation and this equation is the same thing. So if you want to get c, all I need to do is to remove this here, remove this minus 1. So when I remove this minus 1, I'm going to carry it to the right-hand side. It's going to become plus a half. So therefore, c is equal to 4 plus a half, right? Which is 9 over 2, all right? So moving on now, I need you all to understand what are parallel lines, right? So if you look at this graph, I have 3 lines. I have line P, line Q, and line R. All right? Now P, Q, and R are parallel lines. What does that mean? Or what that means is that if I extend any of those lines till infinity, those lines will never meet, right? So that's a key point you need to know here. So parallel lines, if we extend them till infinity, they will never meet. Parallel lines cannot meet. But what I need you all to understand here is that parallel lines have the same gradient. That's a key concept that you all need to understand, right? Parallel lines have the same gradient. So look at something here. The equation of the line P, as this one, is y equal to 2x plus 4. So my gradient is actually equal to 2, right? So my gradient m for that line is equal to 2. If we look at the equation for the line Q, which is this one, the equation of the line Q is y equal to 2x. Again, my gradient is equal to 2. So m is equal to 2. In the case of R, my equation is y equal to 2x minus 4. So therefore, my gradient m is still equal to 2, right? So the key point here is that parallel lines have the same gradient. So if in the exam they tell you, I have a straight line and I know what the gradient is, find the equation of a line that is parallel to it. Once they talk about parallel lines, you can figure out what the gradient of that line is automatically, right? I will do some questions just now to help you understand that concept. So the key point, parallel lines have the same gradient. Parallel lines are lines that if we extend them till infinity, they will never cross, right? So that's what we call parallel lines. Now, there's another concept that you need to know, which is about perpendicular lines. Now, this is the one that some students have a little trouble with, right? Now, I have 2 lines here. I have P and I have Q. This is line P and this is Q. On the graph, this is P and this is Q. Now, when we say 2 lines are perpendicular, what that means is that those 2 lines will meet, But when they cross each other at 90 degrees. This angle here is 90 degrees. So P and Q are said to be perpendicular if, when they cross each other, the angle made between them is 90 degrees, right? Now I'm hoping you all know what 90 degrees is, right? So the key point here is perpendicular lines are lines, when they meet at 90 degrees. But here's the thing. When you multiply the gradients of each of those two lines, you are going to get -1. That is a key concept that you need to know. So the gradient of line P multiplied by the gradient of line Q will give me -1, right? So sometimes they might ask you to prove that two lines are perpendicular. If they ask you to do that, you need to figure out the gradient of each of the lines and multiply them and show that the gradient is -1. So look at something here. So I've given you the equation of P, which is y equal to x plus 4. So the gradient here is 2. So M for that line is 2. I've also given you the equation of the line Q. So look at this. This here is my gradient. So therefore M is equal to -1/2. Now look at something here now. If I take the two gradients, which is 2, that's for the line P, and multiply by -1/2, right? This 2 will cancel with this, and I will end up with -1, right? So that's the point I'm trying to make. If I have lines which are perpendicular, when I multiply the gradient of each of those lines, I'm going to get -1, right? So those are two important concepts that we need to know. We need to know about parallel lines, and we need to know about perpendicular lines, right? So do you all grasp that concept? All right. So now, as is the first part, you need to understand those two concepts first about parallel and perpendicular lines. Now, let me show you how you're gonna use that information now. So let's look at these questions. So the first question I'm asking, what is the gradient of the line which is parallel? So we want the gradient of a line which is parallel to this line, right? So I want to know the gradient of the line which is parallel to this line here, y equal -4x plus 1. I want you all to just type the answer in the chat for me, please. All right, so I'm seeing, all right, so most of you all saying minus 4. So the key word here is parallel. Parallel lines have the same gradient. So if you know the gradient of this line here, which is m equal to minus 4, it means that the gradient of the line they are talking about, so the answer is minus 4, right? Now, what about this next one here? What is the gradient? This is number 2. What is the gradient of the line that is parallel to the line? And they're giving us this. So those of you who were in class last week should know how to work this one out.